I've got an opportunity once again to speak to one of my favorite people on the show, and that is Kathleen Lucente from Red Fan Communications in Austin, Texas. And Kathleen, we're going to talk about a campaign that you were telling me about, which was about educating the educators. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But just before we started recording this, you told me that you've just literally been running a workshop this morning on crisis comms for healthcare. And healthcare is something that I am just seeing talked about so much in the PR space right now. Very quickly, just give us a little bit of an overview of what you were doing this morning.
Sure. So this morning was we're working with a company that hasn't even launched yet. That is in the healthcare space. It's a B2B company, and I love working with this executive team. It's a small executive team, but they knew right off the bat we need a crisis plan because anyone who's ever been in the healthcare industry knows, there's just natural things that are going to happen. Somebody's going to get rejected from, something that they've submitted for payment or whatever it may be, or someone's going to call in a favor, or, the system is going to go down for a couple of hours, or, something will get rejected. I mean, there's a million things that are just natural things that happen in healthcare, and they're kind of actually an everyday list. But if the executive team doesn't pull together and understand collectively how they're going to handle those things, then you kind of have chaos. And so I love that we are working today on, really, this is a crisis planning. So we put together an entire crisis planning book, and we worked with this smaller executive team on a couple of scenarios that we know would be their worst nightmare. So we went through them and walked through them, and also, got them thinking about, well, what else do we need to add to the crisis book? Who else needs to be pulled in? And, of course, we had the lawyer, the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CMO, kind of that group, and head of operations. And so it was a fantastic way to start before a launch, because now there's sort of like the deodorant commercial is in place. We've all kind of realized, cool, we know if this happens, we have a holding statement. Now, of course, you still need to be nimble, but this is a great way to start because so many companies don't have crisis plans in place, or they don't use them.
I mean, there's two thoughts. First of all, is that I've spoken to plenty of people who say the problem is getting people to accept the fact they need a crisis plan, and you've actually got someone here who understands it. The second thought is that healthcare is such a complex area, and I think people are always nervous about it because it's like, oh, what if this particular product causes a rash or does something even worse? And so there's lots of fear around it, and also regulation, isn't there? So how did you kind of construct the workshop you were doing to address that?
Well, we interviewed all of the top executives and partners in advance, and asked them about their roles, how they fit into the picture, what are their worst fears, and many of them have been in the industry before, and we kind of collected those together so that it wasn't just from one person's fear. It was taking all the worries and concerns and putting them in one room, and then going, great, let's knock those suckers out. Let's figure out how do we handle that, and then let's look at the harder ones, and really kind of ones that might have extra layers to them, that we just need to know, who do we pull in? Because a lot of times in a crisis situation, people pull people together, but they miss out on pulling two people together that absolutely critically needed to be in the room for decisions, right? So, and we also talked about, even after that, which is how do you create a culture where you are ensuring that people know that it's okay to bubble up issues or concerns, like if you see something, say something, kind of thing, right? And especially in the first 6 months of a new company, it might get overwhelming, but you'd much rather know what those issues are sooner, versus people thinking, oh, I'll just handle it by myself, and then what was an issue turns into a crisis.
That's an interesting one, because you always talk about crisis comms as being a small team who are handling these things, and you've got to balance a little bit, haven't you, the amount of information that's going on in that discussion compared to how much other employees know about it, in case there's any leaks or anything like that. So how do you approach that? How do you make sure that you have got that culture of feeding up without people potentially leaking? All it takes is one comment to a friend, and that could be out there.
Yeah, that is really, it still is a small executive group, even as you build out to the next layer of management. And most of those individuals should, as they're being onboarded into a company, especially a new company, understanding these are the critical things. These are things that are absolutely no-go. Like, this is something you can't do. You cannot leak. Here's the ramifications of those types of things. But here's the opportunity to help make sure the people reporting to you, if they hear of something or they hear whether it's complaints about a doctor that, everyone it's starting to red flag, maybe that's worth at least knowing. And so you start to kind of identify what are the green, yellow, and red levels of crisis. Maybe something's just simmering and it's not really a big issue yet, but you're going to keep your eye on that. And I also think that it is a nervous industry. It's an industry where people are also, that are in it, are nervous, and you can help diffuse that nervousness by actually having a town hall with your team and highlighting these are going to be normal things that happen, and we know
Expect
how to handle
them.
it. This
They're
is
going to happen.
rodeo.
Yeah.
Right. Expect them.
Yeah.
And so that helps a team at all levels start to understand, oh, okay, it's not good, but it's also normal in this industry to have things that happen. So that's just important to recognize.
Just very quickly before we move on to education, how do you persuade people they need a crisis plan then if they're not sure, or if they think, well, do I really need it? What's your approach to it?
I feel like when you're sitting down with an executive and their team, and you say you're talking about a launch, you kind of want to start asking questions like the what if questions, right? And so if they start to realize, yeah, you're right. So here's the positive thing that's going to happen, but here's what happens if it goes sideways. And do we have a plan? And that's just not an everyday PR plan. These are things that have nothing to do with PR. They might never even get in the news. They might be things that cause a ripple or a problem with an employee, or they might never see the day with the press. But what people forget is the communications team needs to be in there to help those executives deal with all the types of stakeholders, whether it's government officials, it's, insurance bureaus, whatever it may be. If there's a complaint, you need to have systems in place that help, alleviate the concern, get it tightened up so it doesn't wind up in the press.
So it's about asking them questions so that they're aware of what those problems are, and it makes it real.
Right.
Because I think that's one of the problems, isn't it? It's a feeling of like, well, it may not even happen to us, but by making them aware, thinking about it, being in that situation in their heads, and they can start to see, well, what it would mean if they get it wrong. Yeah.
Well, and you also say the insurance policy of spending, I don't know, $20,000 on a crisis plan, and crisis plans range from there to much higher than that. But the cost of having your business taken down versus putting that in place early on and also updating it, that's an insurance policy worth investing in. And unfortunately, a lot of companies wait till they're in a pickle and then actually wind up paying agencies a lot and lawyers a lot more than that to get out of it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's like an insurance policy. Yeah. Listen, we've got to move on because we haven't got that much time. So let's talk about education, because I was really interested by this campaign that you were telling me about. And it's to do with basically using remote teachers in schools to try and tackle the problem of teachers leaving the industry. I mean, particularly, you're obviously focused in America. Just tell us a bit about it and who you're targeting with that campaign. I mean, who's got to hear this message?
Absolutely. Well, we started working with, it's a company called Proximity Learning, and the CEO had written a book, and the book is Teachers Serve Too. He's really a big believer that teachers are not respected, and therefore they're leaving in droves. They're not feeling a lot of respect in their career. It's not just salary, it's, just how they're being treated in the environments of schools. And so we're about to hit June in the United States, and June is when a lot of teachers either say, yes, I'm coming back next semester, or no, I've
had enough of this stuff. I'm out.
PR person. I'm leaving the career altogether, right? and believe that it's been true. I mean, you've seen some pretty drastic changes in career. And so one of the great things was Evan Erdsberg, who's the president of Proximity Learning. He decided to draft a book and also interviewed a lot of stakeholders in the education space across the country. And he wanted basically superintendents at schools to understand, hey, if you're about to lose teachers, first of all, how do we make sure we keep teachers? Because that's a really good thing to do. He's not trying to say you shouldn't keep your teachers. But if you are going to lose teachers, you need to know that you can find a really great chemistry teacher or calculus teacher. And there are ways to do that. So he has teachers all over the country that are in remote locations that receive incredible rounds of applause from students and from schools that love having these teachers piped into the school. So it's, the students are still in school. They're going to class, and there's actually still a teacher or an assistant teacher in the classroom, but the students are getting that teacher in Montana or Alaska, who is,
So it
just a
sounds like
rock star in their,
it sounds like it sounds like the people
industry.
you're targeting then are the head teachers of the schools, is it? Or is it like the local education boards? I don't know enough about the structure, but who's the kind of target of the campaign?
You really have to go after a couple of layers of stakeholders. So you have to go over, you have to get superintendents to feel really comfortable and get buy-in so that uh, you know, this type of relationship with teachers is okay, that people buy into it, because there's some tension around it, right? It's the irony of teachers leaving and having all these spots that aren't filled, and people being mad that you're not hiring locally, but then there aren't teachers to
Yes.
hire locally. So it's this catch-22, right? So he basically created this hashtag teachers serve too, and then also created a campaign called I serve too, so teachers could really speak to that. And he interviewed a number of superintendents and teachers in this book. So what we did was he launched the book itself at a lot of education conferences, so that they got the book first and they got access to the author first, and they could really have some deep conversations. And then we actually did more of a PR push on it, and that made a big deal. And we also finally did a momentum announcement for proximity learning, because they really hadn't been doing much PR, and they needed the world to know, hey, these are all the school districts that have signed on. And not only that, like the renewals are, over 90% of the schools are renewing, so something's working.
I was going to say, because it's like you
Also,
alluded to it there,
they
is
had-
that teachers might be saying, look, you're replacing me, my physical teacher. This is someone who's going to take over. What job do I have? Whatever. So what were those sort of negatives that you had to tackle, and how did you approach those?
Well, I mean, I think one of the good things was and is that we are really close with the head of marketing at Proximity Learning, and he's one of those CMOs that truly believes in partnership. So we started to understand all the different stakeholders, and that what marketing could do, what PR could do. And so really started tackling and understanding, okay, by state, which states are we going after, and what are the concerns by state, by city that we need to address? Because you really do have to customize. And what we found too is, while the Wall Street Journal and New York Times and FT and all these big nationals are certainly writing about teacher shortages, the education trades as well, where the education press is the most is local press. So we were getting Evan on, broadcast in all these different markets, and it made a big difference having those conversations, and also getting superintendents and teachers on TV talking about, maybe even how they love the partnership. Like the person who's in the classroom really is enjoying the partnership with the remote teacher, and they've built a good thing. We're
I suppose it's a
also
good
seeing
topical
some
thing as well,
schools-
isn't it? It's because it's something that's being talked about already, so you can latch into that narrative.
Yeah, and it's a sensitive topic. I think the other big one from a campaign is that I know that the president, he believes, and I think the entire department over there, they believe that teachers should be the equivalent of first responders, that they are not giving the same respect. So when you're waiting to get on a plane, how military get asked to get on first. He's like, I think teachers, especially during the summer, should be like, hey, teachers, let's Delta, let's let Delta bring teachers on. It's teacher month or something like that. Really start to show a level of appreciation. These are the individuals that are setting the foundation for our next generation.
Kathleen,
And,
we are 25 seconds
important.
left before we run out of time. So very quickly, how can people get hold of you? And you must come on again, obviously. So, because we could talk about this stuff for hours.
You can reach
how can people
me
get hold of you?
always, of course. You can reach me at Kathleen@redfancommunications.com. You can check me out on LinkedIn. And if you go to the Red Fan website, you can also join. I have a great newsletter from the desk of, which is pretty spicy on a regular monthly basis. So I enjoy the conversations that come out of that.
Kathleen, it's always lovely talking to you. Thanks so much.